Welcome to the Night Story audio channel, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have a wonderful day with your loved ones. We will all enjoy an extremely fascinating story in today's lecture. I hope you find some time to unwind after reading the story. To help the Night Story audio team, remember to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's examine the story's primary theme together. Every time a bike, a mess, a tall person who couldn't sleep, luggage, and everything else were ready to go inside, the stars would reappear in the middle of the night when the lights were turned off in the sky. Tu felt as though something was missing as she lay next to the door. He woke up quickly, went to the closet by the window, and buried it by himself. He then had to take it with him. After saying that, he ascended to the top of the closet and removed a brown, lidded toilet paper box. Although he could see from looking through it that it was painted, it was extremely clean, indicating that its owner had not forgotten. Using both hands, Tu lifted the box, sat down at the bedside, placed it on his thigh, and carefully opened the lid. When the box was opened and a picture of a girl wearing a white long-sleeved shirt appeared, a quiet voice emerged. A cloudy sky served as the background, and numerous younger sisters in various ethnic costumes stood next to the girl. Tu identified the girl in the photo as his mother. She wasn't just any girl. When Tu turned the photo upside down, he discovered a tiny letter, a very lovely note, from his mother. It had some ink-stained words on it, indicating that the reader had shed tears. Tears flowed like jellyfish, conveying an inexplicable sense of regret, melancholy, and regret. The image of the mother writing letters was uninteresting each time I read the subsequent letters. Each year, Tu was given a picture with lines on the back to commemorate the start of the new school year. Therefore, there was a knock on the door of this hard box to cut more than 20 pictures like that. Furthermore, it was a male voice. Tu requested permission to enter from his father. Tu said, "Come in, Dad," and quickly closed the box. As a 50-year-old man, he opened the door and entered. He had one side of his hair dyed. Despite being 50 years old, he appeared older. He switched on the light near the door. The room was bright with the light. He sighed as he glanced down at his bags. "Why haven't you already gone to sleep?" Tu noticed the hard box beside him as he waited for his response. It was a normal shade of brown. "Yes, I'm going to bed too," he said, cutting it with his own hands. According to Tu, he took a seat beside him. Neither spoke. Nobody spoke. Perhaps, however, they were both thinking of the same person in their minds. Tu considered his mom. He also considered his ex-wife. He claimed that because he and his mother got divorced 15 years ago, his ex-wife was correct. Other married couples do not typically file for divorce for this reason. The image of his ex-wife raising a child was too much for him to bear. His ex-wife chose to divorce him, or it turned out that she did, so that he could live a normal life like many other men, even though they lived in a remote area for a few days each year. Air filled his belly. He asked a direct question and remained silent. "You visited your mother's house, but why?" Tu was a School of Art senior. He chose photography as his major. His graduation project required him to create an artistic set. And he decided to use the Northwest Forest as the theme. In addition, he had a goal: to observe his mother's life and find the answer to the question that had plagued him as a child. "What made you pick that location?" "You left your hometown, your father, and your son, but why?" "Since your father vowed to no longer visit you, you haven't seen your mother, even though you've wanted to see her for more than a year." "Or a male? Or does your father hardly ever get to speak normally?" His voice was a little harsh, "But he listened to you. The reason for this is that your mother did not return. Noyet isn't to blame. You don't realize that you're an adult now. It's been 2 years since your divorce. With your present wife, you've taken things a step further." Although Tu's mother isn't referred to as mother, what is her name? Noyet ought to be referred to as her sister. This year, Noyet turns just 40. She's not quite as old as Tu's mother. The youth is over, but the old age is not yet here. Noyet is not yet an adult. There are occasions when 2 aunts and nephews go out together. They were mistaken for 2 sisters. Not many believed that to be Tu's stepmother. That wasn't what I meant. That was just a waste of my time, I resisted when I noticed my father growing hot. Well, I don't think so anymore. However, I was only 13 or 14 when Noyet returned. I hated it, but I thought so. I assumed it was the cause of my mother's failure to return to see me, even once a year. For instance, I had to admit that when Tu was her age and growing up with Noyet in the summer, Noyet was also gentle and treated Tu like a child, in some way. Then, that thought changed. Tu viewed Noyet as both his mother and a friend. I was unaware that Noyet was at the door at the moment. When did Noyet start showing up? The last part of the story may have been told to you. Noyet's eyes were the lowest part of her face. Her sadness only deepened. Noyet was Tu's stepmother and Sam's wife from the day she entered this home. Her family was her constant concern. Noyet accomplished a lot overall. Of all, her love was the greatest. She was the sole child of Tuesday. However, Noyet knew deep down that Noyet would never be able to change. The mother of Noyet lived in a secluded location in the middle of nowhere. Noyet resisted her parents' words no matter what they said. Actually, Noyet listened to her parents' stories while standing outside. Noyet released his grip and entered. When she went to bed, Noyet wore the flimsy dress she had made. Noyet frequently questioned why she still desired to wed her father and was so attractive. Noyet was married, and he had a son. For the first time, Noyet wed her father. Once, either directly or indirectly, Noyet asked Noyet, when Noyet was a college student and frequently spoke with her friends. She responded a few years ago that she was pregnant and couldn't have a son. She would be extremely fortunate to have a son. Tu was quite depressed, but Noyet gave a courteous response. No woman desired to become pregnant. Noyet gave her the meaning of heaven, at least once in her life. When Noyet saw his wife, he was taken aback. He had no idea whether his wife had heard. She was asked if she was ready by Noyet. Noyet was well aware, but she kept it to herself. With a courteous response, Noyet demonstrated her extensive knowledge. In the evening, Noyet asked Noyet. Everything was set up for Noyet. For the first time in a long time, Noyet went out. Noyet was quite pleased with the way his wife looked after him. Noyet made the decision to wed Noyet. The harmony between Tu and Noyet was his biggest concern. It was stressful the first time, but things changed over time. Tu and Noyet appeared to get along and spoke frequently, especially in recent years. That satisfied Noyet. Noyet inquired as to whether he returned to his room. Noyet gave a courteous response, but his eyes remained fixed on his husband. Noyet left Noyet and Noyet alone and returned to his room. Then he noticed this large car behind the front of the car when he looked out the window. Her father was still standing at the front of the car while the girl slept. Beneath the white dress were two large suitcases. The airport is where I'm heading. The airport. He entered the vehicle. He exited the vehicle and touched the two large suitcases. He wasn't sure whether the customer's mission or the white dress in the yellow light from the high-pressure lamp was drawing him in. He exited the vehicle, placed his hands on the two suitcases on the side, and placed them in the luggage area. The girl's eyes showed that she was a little taken aback. When the pain reached its lowest point, however, the girl boarded the vehicle first. He followed. I have no idea why. He wasn't rushing. Perhaps all he could see was the girl standing in front of him. He didn't appear to have a scattered heart. Only to Tu's seat did he drive. The girl moved to the other chair and sat down. Looking around, Tu saw that it was his seat. AI was not present. He was relieved that no artificial intelligence was seated next to him. He sat down by himself in two cozy seats. He did, however, push a little inside, since I purchased a ticket for this passenger car. A chair was available for us both. Sitting with someone is acceptable, it's enjoyable. Although I haven't seen it closely, you must be young based on your attire. The girl was very eager to sit in the indoor chair and take in the view outside. She was shy, though. She was afraid to speak to the attractive young man. He had the curly hair of an artist. It was still possible to adjust and switch places. They didn't exchange any words. Off the bench, the wheel fell. Still, it was early. There was nothing to watch because it was in the city. The car was trembling when both girls fell asleep. Intoxicated, the two boys dozed off. The car's horn blared loudly. The girl in white opened her eyes. Tu opened his eyes, too. They were both taken aback by their own circumstances once more. From the start, the girl was on his shoulder. They both had good sleep. They traveled to the northwest to enjoy their honeymoon, though, if the outsider believed this to be a newlywed couple. As if nothing had happened, the girl grudgingly tied her hair back, causing the hat to drop to one side of her shoulder. The sky was clear as you looked out the window. The vehicle was traveling at a high speed, as though it were on a highway. His eyes darted to the scene of the two mountains at that precise moment. There was a fresh voice just behind him. "I apologize, friend." The voice was quiet. Yushit, however, was actually moving very softly and quietly. Tu averted his gaze, focusing on the faint voice on the side. It was the girl who spoke. The car's front was bright. She was the only person present. It was the one who had just spoken, Tu confirmed, a bit taken aback. Or perhaps Tu hadn't opened his eyes because he had just woken up. The girl had a long, thin face and was very attractive. She had a dress-white face. She had a phoenix-like nose. Her slightly curved lips simply made her mouth look lovely. Her face was as thin as a bamboo in the upper part. Her eyes had the color of a pebble. She had a forehead as tall as a clever illustration. The brush was still slightly warm from Tu's single-hand contact. "Oh, how painful my skin is." The girl grinned as she spoke and laughed. As white as corn kernels were her two white teeth. Perhaps she had just had her teeth extracted. The girl grinned, "Tu, what a man. It really hurts me." "How can you tell that I'm a man?" Tu was given a lovely brush by the girl. There was something very personal about it. Then the tale continued endlessly. They may have only recently met because they were of the same age. But they were close. The girl tried to be close, but it wasn't in line with her actual human nature. I'm not sure if this was because the original goal was to alter the location so that it would sit beautifully. You're on the sidewalk, but why? Tu moved the hair dryer to the right and took out the camera. I went up to take a photo when a few screws were obstructing my forehead. She was searching for her family to play with, and I noticed that her lips were swollen and round. Since I am aware that neither of them enjoys speaking the truth, they laughed together while repeatedly repeating the same phrases. Additionally, it caused the time to pass swiftly. Since this was a high-speed section, the bus was still hurrying off. Time simply passed quickly, and every time Tu took a photo, there was a lot of noise. And after saying some dumb things, the two young friends decided to stop once more on the highway, give the passengers another 15 minutes to use the restroom, eat, and then resume driving. By the time the bus reached the campsite, the highway was over. Beginning with this segment, the passenger's gaze was drawn to the distinctive beauty of the northwest forest mountain. In order to get a breath of fresh air after descending the slope, people would bend their heads in front of me while I slept on the side of the road. I still miss that. I eventually realized why they proceeded in that manner. Tan Bin was the target. I was ecstatic. Neither did the girl seated beside me. I saw 20 when I looked at everything. How long it will take to reach the mountain road's footpath is unknown to me. I am unable to determine the time. It is comparable to a piece of plastic.